Hey, good afternoon. Hope all's well. This is Derrick Parker, Regional Vice President with Primerica. Hey, I just want to give you a session today. I want to talk about is closing. Closing, probably one of the most important parts of our business. Really learn how to close is essential in terms of being able to take the necessary steps to really get to the next level. So closing just has so many different applications, so many different skill sets. I'm going to give you the basic skill sets today that we kind of talk about as far as whether you're closing an IBA or closing a life app, really closing the client at the kitchen table. They really fundamentally cover the same areas because if you can learn how to close an IBA to really bring somebody into the business, you can essentially learn how to close really getting a life app in place. Doesn't really matter. The same process, same fundamentals, same skill set. So today I'm going to really talk about some of these things, but I think it's really important to really kind of get these things down because I've seen a lot of people come through the business who maybe have great presentation capabilities. Maybe they're good people, fundamentally, talking to people, and maybe they're good at attracting people, but their closing ability is somewhat suspect. And what I mean by that is they have goodwill but no skill. So you got to have a little bit of both. You got to have skill, right? Skill to really learn how to tie people down. And you got to have a will, a burning desire to, clear, concise mental picture to do something great to really help people get what they need. Because we're in obviously a needs-based business, financial services. People got to be closed. You got to help them get to what they want. It's not about just giving people information. Sometimes people think, well, if I just do a good presentation and I bring up a lot of things, somebody will say, oh, I need that. Can you help me with that? I wish that was true. There'd be so many more families I would have helped if that were the process. But the truth of the fact is you got to be able to learn the basics as far as being able to close. And everyone, if you're 18, 19, 20, you can learn this. If you're 50, 60, 70, you can learn this. It doesn't matter the age, anyone can learn this process. And I'm going to teach you some fundamentals today so you can revert back to this, video to really say, hey, look, let me pick up some tools, some fundamentals to really get going. So let me dive right into some areas. I'm going to basically relate this to really closing a life app. I think that's really important, or closing not just a life app, but really closing a family as far as on a program. So let me set it up. You've done a great presentation. You're sitting with somebody and you want to know like where to go. So in our basic presentation, our 8-page or 10-page presentation, it has a very last page that looks like it says stop. When you're done with the presentation, because we want to transition and get into some other areas. But before you stop, you actually will come to this page. And this page really kind of helps you really get that momentum. We know that in the course of a presentation, it's ideal that you get 7 yeses. You ask the client, 7 times where there's an opportunity to develop a yes. So example, if I could help you and your family identify a game plan that's going to help you save and for retirement and kids' college education, would you be open to taking a look at that? Yes. If I could help you, maybe throughout the course of the presentation, show you how to save money on your auto, would you at least be open to taking a look at that? Yes. So it's essential that you get what we call closing momentum. Yes, momentum. You got to build those 7 yeses into your presentation, not just all at once, but throughout the presentation, building yes to get those little baby commitment steps. So when you get to the end, closing is just going to be really a walk in the park as opposed to, oh my God, where do we go from here? So let me just set this up properly. This is a page solution to build your financial house. We cover this right before we get to the stop page. So it obviously covers, it covers a lot of different areas. It covers, the house. So what's the most important part of the house? The roof or the foundation. So in here at the bottom, there's a lot of closing questions that we ask. So for example, if I'm sitting with a guy, Roger, if I could help you, free up money to become debt free, would you be open to taking a look at it? Yes. That's a basically what we call a closed probe, which demands a yes or no question. He's not going to say no to something like that. So if I could show you how to free up money in terms of your life insurance, would you be open to taking a look at that? Yes. So another option would be to get closing or yes momentum, even coming to this page. Over here, it covers, basically the question as far as the financial needs analysis. So let's just say I've come to this page. I'm right at the near end of my presentation. I've set it up properly. I've asked yes question. I've gotten yes momentum. I have an idea that maybe the client is interested in some areas. I maybe identified throughout the presentation that maybe they're interested in maybe a will, maybe life insurance. So the very, very first important thing that I have to do is let me repeat this, I have to get the money on the table. You can't take a client or a person somewhere you want to go without having a monetary commitment. Why is that so important? Well, it's important because if there's no money for them to spend, or there's no money that can be freed up, there's no need for us to go through this process. So the very first page that I'm going to outline after the closing or the financial house page is I'm going to get the money commitment. So let me just read this page. This will be in your binder, or this will be forwarded to you via email that we help people with once they get licensed. So we want them to really understand this. So let me just read this. Let's just say Tanya and George. So Tanya and George, we sit with a lot of families, and we find that many of them want to get started on a path to financial independence. Most people find that they can free up $500 per month to go towards their plan. There's a fortunate few who can do maybe 500 or more. And then there are some who are on a limited budget of at least 100 to 150 a month. Which best suits you? So after I ask that question, which best suits you, WFA, what does that mean? Well, I'm going to wait for an answer. I'm not going to talk. So let's just say 10 seconds goes by, I don't get a response. 20 seconds goes by, I don't get a response. I'm still quiet, I'm waiting for an answer. 30 seconds goes by, I'm going to read the question again. So we sit with a lot of families daily and find that many want to get on a path to debt-free financial independence. However, they're fortunate, many people feel as though they can start with at least $250 a month. Fortunate few can do $500. Or there are those on a limited budget of $100, $150 a month. Which best suits you? So if they tell me, hey, you know what, Derrick, I could start with, let's just say, looking over here, they say, hey, 200. So my question will be $200. So if George is right here and the wife is right here, Tanya, I'm going to look at Tanya. I'm going to say, Tanya, do you agree with that? That's very important, because I don't want the spouse to feel as though, whether it's husband or wife, that maybe I'm catering to one over the other. You got to be very careful with that and sensitive to people's needs. Sometimes men, we kind of connect and hit it off, and the spouse is kind of looking like, hey, this is not a good old boys club. This is not boys night out. This is all of us together talking about what's taking place. So you have to really have buy-in from both husband and wife. So if I'm talking to the wife, I'll ask, so $250 a month wouldn't take any food off your table. Are you okay with that, George? Yes. So great, I can work with that. So now I have what is called a monetary commitment that's going to really help you along the way. That is the crystallizer right there, because most people, what I find is they buy emotionally, but they rationalize logically. So what I mean by that is, once you get that money commitment and you identify exactly what's what, now you're the surgeon, you're the doctor. Your job is to identify exactly what's going to happen with that money, okay? So sometimes you may start with, say, a limited amount of money. Sometimes you may have a lot of money to kind of work with. So, if what I mean by that is, if you have, say, $75 to work with, well, there's not a whole lot you can do with $75. You may be able to start with one plan or two plans, maybe $50 for some life insurance, and then maybe $25 on some savings. But keep in mind that the more services that a client has, the more likely they are to stay on the books, okay? Client retention is very, very important, and you want to feel as though you're building a plan for somebody. So the second page that I'm going to use after I get the money commitment, I'm going to go to the very second page. Okay, so let's just say again, they gave me a $250 commitment. I'm going to write that amount. Boom, I'll write it at the top of the page. I got $250 there. Okay, now I'm going to explain to them what I'm going to do with the $250. So Tanya George, there's a couple things that I'm going to do to work out a game plan to really help you get debt-free and financially independent. And then these are going to be some of the areas. Now you notice here on this page, it has these little extensions at the end of every area. So extensions, life insurance, budget will. Now, a lot of these numbers, of course, I don't know, but I mentioned to you before, people buy emotionally, they rationalize logically. This is going to be the logic page that I'm going to leave behind with them. This is like their receipt. So when I'm gone and those referrals call back and say, hey, what did that guy do for you? What did that gal help you out with? They can go to the logic page and say, hey, look, this is what he did. This is what she did. I'm really excited about that. Think of it this way. Many of you, I'm sure, have bought a car. So if you ever bought a vehicle, the emotional process starts from the time you take a step onto the lot. So think of it this way. You walk onto a car lot, you're looking at those nice cars. Let's say you got a Mercedes 5 Series, you got a BMW, whatever you may, that may pique your interest. But you're on that parking lot. The salesperson immediately comes up to you and they ask you an emotional question. Hey, how can I help you? Or what's unique about that car that really piques your interest? Well, they're going to really feed that emotional appeal by asking you what? Hey, look, you know what? You want to take it for a spin? They're going to throw the keys at you. Maybe they're going to go in and assume that you want to basically take a look at that vehicle. When you get in that car, you got those nice big bucket seats, that nice leather. It is just amazing, the emotions that are flying through your head. You're thinking, man, I can afford this. I know I can do this. This is reasonable. I know I can get it. So a lot of things are kind of tying into your head. So you're ready to move forward. But the logic is somewhat going to come up a little bit later. So from the time we walk into someone's house, we're getting them to buy in emotionally. Maybe you're telling a story about, what happened to you or someone, maybe another client example. You're maybe telling them about, how do you feel about the business? You're playing into their emotions. And when you leave, you're going to leave the logic behind, which is the financial house page. So that's step 2. I'm going to show that, capture that number at the top of the page. So the very first step that we're going to address, of course, if I got a $250 commitment, is we're going to address the foundation, right? That's the essential step, life insurance. So how are we going to address the life insurance? Well, we're going to do what is called a DIME, a D-I-M-E, okay? DIME worksheet, okay? So notice, it says page 3, okay, or step 3. So we're going to do a DIME. So if I'm sitting with Tanya and George, I'm going to ask them some very simplified questions, okay? So in the DIME worksheet, it's going to cover some of these basics. So the first step here, it says, well, of course it lists husband and wife, but the first one says death and debt, okay? Now, we know if you're trying to calculate the needs of how much need a life insurance that a family needs, it's usually, most people buy life insurance based on affordability. So they're thinking, well, $80 a month, I can afford that. $200,000, I'll take it. If you listen to, say, Dave Ramsey or Susie Orsman, they'll both tell you, hey, look, you need to be buying at least 8 to 10 times the breadwinner's income. So if a husband makes $50,000, 10 times is $500,000. If he makes, say, 40,000, then 8 times that's 48, so 480,000. But we utilize what is called DIME. So we're going to look at the death and debt. So the very first area, death and debt. Now, death, we know that an average funeral is going to run about $20,000. I'm not going to ask them how much it's going to cost them to, for burial. Most people don't know that. Some people say $5,000, $10,000, or I buried my cousin down in South Carolina for $1,500. No, we're $20,000. That's a reasonable number. So I'm going to write that number up top, $20,000. So debt. Now, when I'm asking some of these questions about, their needs, I'm really going to ask questions. There's softeners. I'm not going to be very direct. I'm not going to say, tell me exactly how much debt you have. In a roundabout way, how much debt do you have outside of your mortgage? So I'm going to ask both of them. So they may say collectively, well, we got 30,000. Okay. So if they say 30,000, I'm going to write $30,000 in that example. So 30,000 for both of them. Now the next question, next step, over here it says income times 5. So Tanya, around how much do you make a year? Let's just say she says 50,000 and George says he makes 60. So now you notice it says times 5. So I'm going to multiply that by 5. So for George, that's going to be 300,000. 6 times 5 is 30. And then for her, that's 250,000. So there's an income replacement need of 250,000. Okay, so I'm going to write that right there. And let's just say the mortgage, about how much do you guys owe on the mortgage? 300,000. So they say 300,000. I'm going to write that in. And then lastly, the very last bullet point here, as far as calculating their needs, has to do with what's called education. Now, it's education for kids that are not in school yet. Okay. So in the event that if something were to happen to you, God forbid, do you still want your children to go to school? Yes. So I'm going to use a public school education cost. University of Maryland, $20,000 per year per child. So let's just say there's one child. That's 4 years of education. That's 80 grand. I'm going to write in there for both husband and wife. So I got all my costs in there. I got the 20 for the burial. I got the 30. So let's just say we add all these numbers up, and let's just say I'm not going to add them exactly. Let's just say we come to 680,000 needed for him, and let's just say we come to 640,000 needed for her. So you notice at the bottom it says total protection needed. So total protection needed for husband and wife. That is what we call bulletproof. Okay. So what that means is the husband, okay, George, needs 680,000 of life insurance on him and 640,000 of life insurance on the wife. That will allow them to cover every last need. So in the event of a demise, untimely demise, I would come back with a check for 640,000, and that would cover every need, assuming that we utilize covering these areas. Now, that's based on their needs. So needs and cost are two separate animals, okay? So now it comes time to really be creative with this, because now I think the skill set here of really quoting a family and really getting a quote on the table is really going to allow you to really close business. If I'm in a house, my clock is ticking. I'm very conscious of my time. Hour and a half tops. I want to be in and out of the house. I don't want to be in there 2 hours, 3 hours later, still trying to figure out a life insurance quote, still trying to do an investment plan. It's long. They're tired. And now you're about to talk to them about joining the business. Nobody wants to join a business like that. So I'm going to keep it real simple. Hour and a half. I'm in and out. I'm showing them a quote. I'm showing them a game plan for how to get ahead financially. So the very fourth step, I'm going to turn this page over. Okay, the dime worksheet, I'm turn it over, and it gives me the fourth step, which is the financial game plan. This is where we're going to get our quotes in. Okay, so let's just say if they currently had a plan. Let's just say they currently have a plan. Now, we already got a $250 a month commitment, right? So if they're already spending $100, so I'm going to ask them, Tanya and George, do I have your commitment to use that extra $100 to go towards your plan? Sure. So let's just say they're spending $100 for life insurance, and they got, say, $50,000 on one, $20,000 on the wife, maybe $5,000 on the kids, and they're spending $100 a month. Now, you'll learn after selling insurance for a while and seeing plans, you'll learn that $100 a month for spending for that small amount of coverage for couples in their, say, 30s, that's a lot of money. So you're already thinking, hey, it's probably a whole life insurance. So I'm going to do a comparison. This column here says apples to apples comparison. So I'm going to run a quote, basically on a 20-year plan, I'm going to run the exact same thing, 50,000, 20,000, 5,000 through Primerica. And let's just say Primerica's plan came out to, say, $60 a month. Okay? It's just an illustration. Doesn't mean I'm going to go there. But let's just say I drew that out, showed them exactly what the savings was. So that just meant we freed up $40 a month. Okay? So $40 a month freed up, right? So you're looking right there, $40 a month. And then if I took at $40 and I put it in a 9% return, you have a financial calculator in your phone or on your application when you do quick quotes. So let's just say that came out to over a 25-year period. Let's just say it came out to another, $85,000. Okay. So I have that listed, an apples to apples comparison. I'm showing that, hey, you know what? That plan is already slamming it. It costs way too much in terms of what they have. So the very next thing I'm going to do is really outline the bulletproof plan. That was the one where I did the dime on the back. So that's proposal A. So looking at proposal A, and then I'm going to also do a proposal B. So proposal A, I'm going to use what numbers? Precisely the numbers on the back. So we said that he needed 680,000. She needed 640. Okay. The kids, let's just say we put 20,000 for the kids, and let's just say those numbers come out to let's just say $170 a month. Okay. All right. So $170 a month. Now, how much money do we have on the table? So again, we have $250 commitment that they made plus an extra $100. So that just basically leaves us with another 100 and 100 plus, what is that? 170. So another, that's 270. Another $180 basically left over that we still haven't used, that we can still use for other products and services. So 680, that's the bulletproof. Now, one of the things that we teach is that we want to give them 3 quotes. We call it a triplicate of choice, So we did a current plan of comparing apples to apples. We did a second plan, which is a bulletproof from the dime. And then the third is we're going to compare, we're just going to take half of the dime. So if it's 680,000, these numbers over here, we're going to take half of those numbers. So half of 680 is essentially what? 340. And then for her, 320. And then same 20,000 on the children. And let's just say, roughly those numbers came out to, let's just say 105 a month. Okay. So now I have 3 choices that are here really that I've outlined for the client. Now, if I'm doing a quote for a family, now I just really gave you some quotes off the top of my head, but the most important way or the easiest way to run a quote is you have to be able to go into your application through your phone. So it's very, very important for you to upload the Primerica application through your phone. So if I'm on my phone, I can really do it for speed. And let me just pull that one up. So if I'm on my phone, I can really kind of talk to a client. I can multitask versus going online using my iPad or laptop. It may take a little bit longer. You have the quotes right on your phone. It's very, very simple. It's very expeditious, and it's really simple. So you can go into your phone, you key in the birthdays, you key in the configurations for getting that information, and within a couple minutes, you can basically run these numbers to identify how much a family needs. So using the Primerica application on your phone is going to be a lot quicker in order to accomplish that. So let's just say I've done a great job. I've got 3 quotes on the table for a family. One thing I did want to mention, usually when you're generating quotes or things like that, there may be what we call dead space, silence. Sometimes that can kind of like really disrupt the camaraderie that you have going, the continuity, because sometimes you may have to really look at something to really kind of be on intact. I can do those things now confidently because I know how to multitask and talk to people. but you may want to have like a brochure. You want to may have like some literature that you can really put in front of the client to really outline, to really kind of keep them, intact, keep them, I don't want to say distracted, but engaged, where until you can give the final numbers, you can really kind of outline what's what. So you want to be consistent. You want to stay intact, but also keep them engaged. If you are training with a new recruit, that's a great time to have that new recruit get referrals. I'll have a referral page out on the table, and I'll talk about, hey, getting referrals and why that's important. And we can really kind of, work accordingly with that. So let's just say we got 3 choices here on the table. Okay. I'm going to go through and explain each of the choices that I've outlined for them. Of course, comparison, that's not the one that they're going to go for, but I'm just showing them as an example, comparing it. And then I'm going to show them proposal A, okay, over here, and then proposal B, okay. So I'm going to show and explain each of those in terms of how it works. Usually if they're over 40 years of age, I'm going to show a 20-year term. If they're under 40, I'm going to do a 30-year term, and I'm going to show them those numbers. And then I'm going to ask them, I'm going to turn the page towards them, and I'm going to explain each of those. And then I'm going to ask the client, Tanya and George, which one of those makes most sense? And usually what's going to happen is they're gonna maybe kind of converse back and forth. They're going to look at each other. Well, I like that one. I like that one. I like this one. I like that one. They're going to kind of go back and forth with each other maybe for a little bit. They may say, well, if we start here, can we increase? Sure. This is time to engage and ask questions. And then for the most part, they're going to choose an example. They're going to choose one of those that they like. Now, this is the part that I really love about Primerica, and I really love to differentiate where we at. This is a brochure that you definitely want to have on the kitchen table. It's called Term Now. Of course, there's another brochure that is similar. It has a custom advantage, but the Term Now. So in other words, Term Now usually is utilized if you're doing a plan for, let's say, a 30 years old or 35-year-old, up to 300,000. You can do Term Now if you're doing custom advantage. The benefits are still going to be the same, but you really want to utilize and differentiate where we're at. This is a great brochure to have on hand. It's talking about the A+ rating, on this side of who we are. $3 million in death claims are paid out every day. And then over here, we're going to talk about all the benefits: guaranteed insurability to age 95, waiver of premium, terminal illness benefit, one child rider for unlimited number of children. You should know those things. You should be able to convey some of those things. Those are the differentiating factors that allows our term insurance. That's why it's the best insurance in the business, because we really outline a great plan. So let's just say they chose a plan. We've outlined exactly what's there. The very last step that I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back and I'm going to fill in the numbers that I did on page 2. So let's just say they chose an option here. They chose 170 a month. They chose the bulletproof 170. So they love proposal A. Then I'm going to basically say, hey, look, we got $100 a month to go towards retirement, your will. We're going to do 25 a month. And then that leaves up, say, another $70 to go towards college savings. So I've already got a plan outline. I filled those numbers in terms of what we're going to do and which each of these areas that we're going to cover. And for the most part, what I'm going to do is this is going to be my last page that I'm going to leave behind. But closing this part here is really easy. If they say, hey, I like this plan here, Derrick, proposal A, then I'm going to look at them and I'm going to say, that is great. That's a great option, Tanya and George. Well, they may have said, hey, look, you know what? We like option B. So if they said, I like option B, I'm going to say the exact same thing. Option B. That's a great option, Tanya and George. And then the next thing I'm going to say to them is, I need to get your driver's license. I'm going to ask you a couple medical questions, and really I'm going to complete an application, and then essentially I'll welcome you to our happy client family. So at that point, I'm going to get that information. I'm not going to let that be delayed. I'm going to get that information. I'm going to hit the menu button for inputting an application, and we're going to put that application in place right away. We're going to ask them the questions. We're going to outline the beneficiaries. We're going to welcome them to the Happy Client family. We're going to get the banking information. So your job is to get the banking information, the birth date, and the Social Security, so we can begin to implement an application. Closing is really simplified if you cover those basic steps in some of the different forms that I've outlined. So it'll be essential for you to kind of go back through these to really kind of know, hey, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the ones I cover, and I'm going to leave the client, really the booklet that I talked about before. I'm going to leave that behind on the table, and I'm going to welcome to the Happy Client family. And then my job, usually when I get in my vehicle, I'm going to write them a nice bona fide thank you letter. And for the most part, the other areas of the business that we've outlined. So for example, today we may have covered, say, the insurance, and we covered maybe the will. And then I'll say, hey, look, if I'm not investment licensed, I'm going to bring back an investment person for the next time that we get together, and I'll put that in place for you then. So I'm going to be respectful of their time. Maybe if I have 5 or 10 minutes left, I'm going to invite them out to the open house. I'm going to talk maybe a little bit about the business. I'm going to get referrals, and we're going to keep rolling. So kind of gave you some great steps today as far as closing. Closing is so much fun because on the inside, you're thinking, man, I got this check. I can really go do what I got to do. I know I closed some business. I'm feeling good. I'm taking big steps towards the front. They're probably going to walk me out to the car because they feel good about what I do. And I'm going to call my coach. I'm going to tell my coach exactly what happened on this appointment. I'm going to debrief, and I'm going to be excited, looking forward to going to see the next one. So if you do those things right, man, you can have immediate success. You can start closing 1, 2 apps a week and really get this thing going. You can collapse time frames by getting through some of the stuff and become a student of what you're doing to really get to the next level. So proud of you. Thanks for hanging in there. And hey, I will see you at the tip because the top's not high enough. God